So, good afternoon, everyone. As always, we are recording our meetings. In case you don't feel comfortable showing your face, your name, you just have to remove that from the screen. Otherwise, we are ready to go. We are studying the book Alert by the Spirit Joanna de Angelis, dictated to the medium Divaldo Franco. And we have been studying that for 37 weeks. Today is the 38, 30, lesson 38. And it has been, at least for me, quite enlightening. I hope for you as well, to learn from Joana de Angelis' lessons and helping us to understand and to call our attention, because this whole book is her way of, uh, calling our attention to very important subjects that we live and that can help us, lead a better, happier, peaceful life. So the lesson today is called The Best. I'm going to initiate reading. When you least expect it, you are visited by astonishing factors that leave you without knowing how to react. With no prior notice, you come across afflicting situations that disturb you, leading you to frustrations because of the conditions that surround them. In pain, your neighbor come asking you for support in a discomforting way. Taken by the rude solicitation, you will see yourself in a difficult situation to mitigate the problem. Okay. Um, before because the next one is a lot of material as well, so let us start just analyzing this one here. So one of the Angeles will try to call our attention to this topic by saying that many times, although we may be in a comfortable situation regarding our own lives, every now and then we can be, for lack of a better word, disturbed by what is happening to others, what is happening around us, to the point that people will come to us eagerly to find in us or in anyone that they can reach a sort of help, assistance, solution to their situations. And sometimes this, because let's say if you are, in a relative state of peace, because really to be in peace completely is quite hard. When you are assaulted with a plea like this one, that's why they use here, this kind of vocabulary that, the violence, that means like even aggressive, an aggressive way of coming to us. Maybe that would be better here instead of just rude. But aggressive in terms of uh, the way people come because of their suffering and their pain. So this is how she starts with this topic today. Uh, to show us or to lead us to question our position in life and what we can do to improve life overall. Uh, Also hinting, so to say, that we cannot imagine ourselves to be an island. right? Sometimes I guess we would like that to be the case, that we could be completely oblivious to everything that happens around us. Many times because we are talking about, people's problem that are not necessarily our problem, and they are very far away from us. Is not a blood relative, someone that is, it can be dear to us. So we can even display a certain indifference to the pains of others that can become a knowledge to us or not. So this is what she's going to be talking about in this lesson for us to start thinking about the situation. Any comments so far, or should we go another one? Okay, so let's go another one. People's bewilderment reaches you, violently presenting, shouting solicitations, assaulting you. You analyze the priority in their difficulties to see which ones you can best assist. Many tormented souls await assistance in their hallucinations. They seek you since you find yourself obliged without the ideal means for the ministry of relief. In these situations, as in other equivalent circumstances, you ask how to behave, how to do better. What it comes to mind, it can be, a depiction of what happened in those very poor countries where, when a foreigner, a tourist, arrive, a swarm of people, and many times children, go after them to ask for assistance. This is more or less what she's trying to explain to us here. Sometimes the pleas of others are so great and so inconsiderate, so to say, that it comes to you, it hurts, right? It is not as an agreeable situation. Of course, I gave that example just for us to situate ourselves, like you are in the middle of a slum and you are a person of resources, and people can immediately identify. Everyone will come to you asking for money, asking for help, asking for something, and you are going to feel overwhelmed. And in a way, we are talking about material things, but it's spiritually speaking, we are almost all of us in the situation of those beggars of the bread of life. We are beggars of the bread of eternal life. And so sometimes people will come with genuine problems, difficulties. But here she's saying they are tormented souls that have been going through very difficult situations. You, as a good Christian, a good spiritist, will feel the duty to do something, but you have to analyze the priorities, because sometimes it is so much that you have to maintain your balance and try to see the best way that you can, or that you dispose to help the solicitudes that come to us. So in these circumstances, what am I going to do? Oh, please go away. I have nothing to do with your problem. Or I don't have time for you. I don't even know you. What gives you the right to come to me? And unburden yourself on me? We may have very different reactions, right? Especially if we are talking about people that are not our immediate acquaintance. When they are, what we normally do is we go first with judgment. Say, well, you are in a situation because, remember a few months ago that I said that you should have done that and you didn't. This is the result of not listening to me in the first place. So we can be also, when they are close relatives, very judgmental, not respecting the possibilities that they have, which is quite hard. It is I think it's the hardest thing that can happen to us is us seeing our loved ones going straight to the abyss, to the hole, and not being able of doing anything, and keeping on hoping for the best or even helping them at the last minute. But then we come with this judgmental uh, situation where we are going to say, you could have prevented that, or, maybe because it's hard for us to deal with all this. And so Joanna de Angelis proposed those two questions. How do I behave? How should I behave before a situation that a person is clearly unbalanced in despair? And what can I do? What is the best that I can do to come with an assistance? I'm not even saying solution, because sometimes, things cannot be resolved overnight and with just one action. But for the present moment, what can we do to minimize such an aggravating situation? Okay, comments, questions?
I have a question. Can I understand things uh, violent presence, shooting, solicitation, assaulting us, then could be the people around us with their problems, and then face us with the aggressive situation, involve us with some discussion about daily lives, and then we need to behave in better situation and apply all lessons. Then I can, because she mentioned about people far from us, but what I feel in this sentence is the waves of the solicitation, the people around me.
It can be both situations here, right? And what the situation that she's trying to describe and how it impacts us is like, you're quiet in your corner. Okay, let's say you're not even looking for any kind of situation, and then all of a sudden a neighbor may knock at your door and say, oh, help me. And so you are there, enjoying your afternoon tea, or watching Netflix, reading a book, doing something like, and all of a sudden you feel like you were assaulted. The person comes hard at you, begging, not because, it's because of their despair. This is why she uses this vocabulary here in terms of violently, bewildered, aggressively, because it is an aggression to us. Even if you were, facing situations yourself, okay, and you can say, okay, I'm in a bad day, but there is still room in me to help others. You see, the way, the despair that, people come to us, you have to help me, or, in our case, because many people know that we try to, to lead a more spiritual life, to connect with God, to do our prayers. They come desperately for, for assist. So please pray for me. You don't know what is my situation. So they, and many times, because of despair, People feel entitled. They look at you, Sonia, and say, "Oh, she's always so nice, so polite in the elevator of your home, okay? And she always has have a smile. And then something happened. Maybe it's not even a neighbor that you know quite well. If they are desperate, in need of assistance for a neighbor, probably they will think about you. They'll say, you know what, that woman that is always very nice, very upfront. I mean, I'm sure that if I knock at her door with this kind of situation, she's going to help me. But the thing is, they will come hard because, of course, they will only do that out of despair. So this is just an example that I'm giving, okay, to present the whole situation. Yes, Sonia.
Yes. Let me question the right way then, because many times I can see some attitudes, but the person never asks help.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel I need to help this. And this is when I usually ask this question, how to behave, how to do better. When I can see that person need help because their attitudes is not good, it's unbalanced, and then I can apply this lesson in this situation when I can understand when the person never asks help, but I can see that this person need help.
I think you brought a very interesting situation here, one that I would probably not mention, but now that you mention, not because it didn't come at my mind, but it's sometimes, despair doesn't mean big big movements with our bodies or crying and screaming. Sometimes is very silent, like you're saying, and the thing is, I do believe that this applies to the same situation that you're mentioning. The thing is, you will feel, you will perceive, you will see how much that person is in distress. Sometimes that is so hard that the person can't even verbalize that. And of course, it is up to us to do the same thing as Joanna de Angelis is asking us here, how to behave, how to do better. Maybe not because the person is shy or embarrassed, but sometimes even to talk about our own problems, it's so exhausting. It put us in an aggravation. You know how many times we hear people saying, "Yeah, everything's bad, but please, I can't talk about it right now." Not because they want to hide, not because they are embarrassed, but because it's painful. And so there are many cries for help that doesn't emit any sound. And that can be, day after day, you meet this person and you see the exhaustion, the the pain is stamped on their faces. And of course, I mean, if you can, you have to do something about it. It is the same situation. And in a way, because she's also talking in relation to us, right? She's not just talking in relation to others. Now here, all the others are basically others. She's talking in this lesson to us, to how we should conduct ourselves in situations like that. So she's talking directly to us. So whether you being disturbed by the cries or lack of cries, but it is something that is reaching you and taking you out from or preventing you to be more in peace, what can we do? How can we contribute? Orlando put a comment here that's very nice, Orlando, that you could help this lady that was in need of shelter. Uh, and this is exactly what she's saying here. Sometimes, I mean, we don't have much, but if at least we can hear them, we can say a prayer, we can give a plate of food, um, a few dollars or whatever we can do to help. It's something that is important. Let's read a little more. Suddenly, you recognize fatigue, bitterness, and anxiety in your soul. However, uplift your disposition, revitalize your morale. The conscience that awakens to goodness suffers the prodding of the afflictions and uncertainties a lot harder when faced with astonishing cruel acts or of very complex situations. In considering what one could do and how one triggered the machine of upstanding behavior into action. So here, Joanna de Angelis is putting herself in our places and saying, listen, I do understand that because of all this, let's call it pain, that surrounds you, it will come to a point that you say, enough. What difference does, what can I do? What difference can I make? And we can start uh, contemplating a path of indifference. I always remember, I mean, that silly story, but so profound, of a man that it's on a beach and he see the starfish that you call the that is there in the sand that is going to die if you don't put them back on the ocean. And so he start, picking one by one and throwing back to the ocean. And then someone comes to him and says, look at the size of this beach and how many there are. You're not going to be able to help them all. And he says, well, but to this one, I'm making a difference. I'm helping this one. You see, and sometimes we may have this tendency of looking around and saying, I'm not going to fix the world. You're not. But if you fix one by one, and if everyone does that, yes, we will fix the world. What we cannot do is stay in our own cocoon thinking that everything is going to resolve by themselves and everything is going to be better, or just say, what's the point? If I help this beggar here on the street, that is going to be another one on the next block, and I cannot help them all. Don't help them all. Help who you can. So here is what she's saying. Don't lose faith. Don't lose faith in humankind. Don't lose faith in yourself, in your ability to do something. Pick up yourself and say, okay, look how wonderful. There is this story that I read in one book talking about one of the laws, the subdivision of the moral laws that we have in the Spirit's book, that is about the law of work, depending on how, our point of view. There is someone that comes in to a construction site and is talking to the employees there, And talking to one, he says, "Well, what is your work? What do you do here?" And one by one would be saying, "Oh, I have to carry stones all the day just to build, just for this building, and I just carry stones. I carry stones. I carry stones," and always diminishing their value and complaining until they come to one, and he and asks, that was in the same position, and asks, "What do you do? The What are you doing here?" And he said, he replied, "I'm helping to build a cathedral." So you see the way you position yourself. So this is a man that will, a simple builder that one day will go there and says to his children, grandchildren, "You see that stone? I was the one that put them there to help to build this beautiful cathedral." And the other one is just focusing on the heaviness and not seeing the whole creation. So this is when she says, um, for us to revitalize our morale. But one thing that she says here, that is the price that we pay for evolvement. The more evolved we are, the less we are able to be indifferent. That's why, before, a conqueror would go and set fire on a whole village just because they were on the way, and we would go there and help them to set fire. I mean, there was a complete lack of empathy. But now, the more our spirit evolves, the more we understand that we are all connected and brothers and sisters, we can no longer be that indifferent. We can say, "Okay, there is nothing much I can do." We may try to prevent ourselves just to be after bad news that is going to put us in a very down mood, but we cannot just alienate ourselves. I was reading an article last week that they were saying it's wonderful that, for instance, this country is so much advanced in terms of, all this trying to take control of the COVID, the pandemic, and vaccinations level, and etc. But it's still, and that was a scientist talking, you have to remember that while the other countries don't do the same, you are still exposed, and you have something to do with that. Either you help other countries to have the vaccine as well, to grow, or the protection you imagine that you have here is merely an illusion. After all, the virus was not originated here in the US, as far as we know. It didn't just materialize it here in the US without a carrier, right? So now, bringing that to the lesson that we are talking about here, we cannot completely feel in peace while we see so much lack of peace on earth, uh, and just cross our arms and say, "I have nothing to do with that." And so that's why she's saying that the conscience that awakens to goodness suffers the prodding of the afflictions and uncertainty a lot harder. So when people come to you and say, "Oh, I don't care," you can already place their level of spiritual involvement. Any comments, questions? Still have a lot to go. Let's. It is natural that your rest would be more difficult, and at times your quietude improbable. Those that feel very tranquil on earth may perhaps be intoxicated by the vapors of indifference. So, everything that we were saying before, what is the price that we pay is that there is no way we will not feel empathy towards the needs of our brothers and sisters. When suddenly invited to help, to take action concerning others, and to take a stand, do not allow yourself to be impregnated by the fluids and vibrations of the one who seeks you. Gather yourself in silent prayer and ask your heart what you would like to receive if you were the one in need. You know that collective commotions that sometimes, let's say that are walking down the street, Broadway, okay, because they're not now, but there was always a lot of passersby there. And now all of a sudden, someone starts screaming, "Look, help, what a danger! It's going to kill us all." What are you going to do? You're going to start screaming, repeating the same thing without even knowing what is happening. You're going to get into a state of despair, and it's going to aggravate a stampede of people running and causing a catastrophe, without even knowing if that is true or not, if that is the case or not. Or we can have that wonderful story by Chico Xavier that when he was flying on a plane, of course, so far this is the only way we can fly, right? While in the physical body. And there was the indication that the plane could crash. And of course, everyone in the plane started screaming and getting into a state of despair. And he, in spite of being religious, spiritist, believer, having a lot of faith, he started screaming as well. "Oh, please, God help me! God help me! I'm going to die." And then what happened? His spiritual mentor, Emmanuel, said, "What is happening?" And he started talking to him. "Don't you see? We are all going to die. The plane is about to crash. Oh, help me, God." And he said, "So?" Said, "What are you talking about? So? We are all about to die." And he said, "Okay, if that is the case, at least die with dignity. Stop screaming." And, you know, but in a way, what was Emmanuel trying to tell him? Exactly what Joanna de Angelis is telling us here. When someone in despair with very disturbed energy vibrations come to us, many times instead of us being that safe port to help to calm down the person, we get into the same situation, into the same vibe of the person. So we will feel afraid, anguish, all of those things that not only is not going to help the person, but is going to aggravate ourselves as well. So that's why she says, rule number one, have dignity, right? Is stay calm. Put yourself in a state of prayer, not to attune with the despair of the other, but to attune with spirits that can guide you how to help the other without you being stained also by the vibrations that the other is bringing to you. You see how important this is? And how, to apply that in our day-to-day life. Sometimes, when a child comes to us with a boo-boo, right? I mean, it hurt. They are seeing their finger bleeding, and then when we start saying, "Oh my God, what happened with you? Oh, you cut your finger," and then it's when the child starts screaming and crying more, because now is when she's realizing, she's reading in us, "Oh, this is a situation that I should be more in despair, is more serious than I thought." Right? Maybe it hurt on the moment that they had the cut. Now it's, it's unpleasant, but it's not hurting that more. But we as parents, grandparents, or educators, whatever, we sometimes put ourselves in a situation, and then is when the child is going to cry even more, uh, and also, getting advantage of having more of our attention. So the first thing that we have to do is try to calm down the whole situation, maintaining our calm. Easy to do? Absolutely not. Serenity now. Any common question?
Because we always believe we need to do something. We need to put some effort in any situation to solve the problems. And we always forget maybe to be quiet, to pray, and to leave the situation to come down. Maybe it's the way to solve that situation and the problem.
Mm.
But we always believe we need to do something. And we forget to stop to do anything. It's it's the action too. It's one action to be stop, to wait. It's an action.
Yeah, and I mean, and sometimes we just aggravate the situation, right? Uh, without even knowing if what the person is telling us is the ultimate truth, right? Sometimes, a spouse can come and say, "Oh, my spouse did that to me." Okay, from your perspective, but what is the perspective of the other spouse? And then, I mean, we start taking sides, we start saying, getting into the problem instead of being away from the problem, but having, with tranquility, enough understanding on how to help through this problem. Because, many times we are powerless even to deal with our own problems. How can I mean, I don't think that when people come to us asking for help, they are deep inside actually expecting that we are going to solve all the problem, because we all know that we can barely solve our own. How can, I put it in somebody else's hands, the solution for my problem? Okay, so you will certainly have the answer for what would be the ideal behavior. Still, if it is not possible to take the ideal action, do not fold your arms lamenting impossibilities. Do it in the best way you can, surrounding the one you are helping in affection and maintaining your conscience in harmony. Many times, we will even know what the person needs, but we cannot provide it. We cannot give, a better husband or child or grandparent or the money that they need if we barely have for ourselves, right? So we may even access the situation and say, what this person really needs is this, but I don't have this to give. But we can have other things to give. We can even be the intermediary for solutions. or we can pray together to, at least do that to see if, things can get better. So this is what she's saying is someone comes and say, I'm hungry. Can you give me a piece of bread? And then you look at your kitchen and say, you know what? I don't have bread. Sorry. But you have apples, you have bananas, you have muffins, you have rice, you have vegetables, but you don't have bread. And then you say, I'm sorry, I don't have bread. She asked for bread. And then you can say, listen, what you are asking now, I don't have, but I can give you something else that will help as well, that will satiate your hunger a little bit. Let's see. Um, Orlando put a question here in terms of collective death. There are so many people going through that now, different kinds of collective death, different kinds of accidents. Uh, we may die collectively in a way, but the death is always individual. So at the end of the day, for the individual spirit, it doesn't make that much of a difference if we died alone in our bed or if we died in a collective situation. And it doesn't make a difference as well in relation to how the spirit is going to be assisted and receive it on the other side of life according to their own merits. So it's always very sad for us as humanity when, and also, triggers even more our empathy when we see, in this case, not only because we feel sad because of the departed one, but to think about the families that remained and are going through the loss of a loved one, which is a kind of hard as well. So we always have to multiply the a number and the number of death by 4, 5, or 6, because a death on an average always impact around 5 people, 6 people. So the number of pain is always greater than just the one of the departed. It's when it's time for us to go, it's time for us to go. So Joanna de Angelis is saying here, you will always face difficult occurrences and you should grow accustomed to them. Due to the measurable quantity of afflicted and the precariousness of your resources, do not feel that you are unable to help and become discouraged. It's like we were talking about the example of, the starfishes on the beach. You look around and say, oh my God, there's so much. Okay, if 1,000 is going to perish, 1,000 more, it's fine, right? No, I can save 10. I'll save 10. And then Zoraida can go and save 10 more, and Philip and Sonia and everyone go save 10 more. If everyone does the same, we will have a better result. There is one thing that has always been coming around here that I like very much, which is the paying forward, right? When you receive a good deed and you feel inclined to do a good deed as well. And you inspire others doing good deeds. When you see someone doing a good deed, you inspire others to do good deeds as well. So it's what we have to do. We have to become examples. But she's saying here, don't think that it's going to be easy. Don't think that you are going to be appreciated, that you are going to be rewarded, that you're going to get an award just because you're doing your fulfilling your duties, right? But what you cannot do is become discouraged, because we all need help and assistance from others. And so we have to keep on sowing goodness in the world. So the multitude that heard Jesus' words of freedom and peace, although already satiated in the spirit, was perishing by organic hunger. When asked for help, Jesus took the 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish that belonged to the disciples and replenished the bellies in need. He acted without losing enthusiasm or altering his attitude of love that he used prior, guiding grave spiritual need from which all were perishing. So, here, what she's trying to tell us is to say, you know what? Even if uh, you are providing spiritual assistance, sometimes the assistant can be on more of a physical nature, and then you will do whatever you can to provide, you know, the assistance for the physical nature as well. One thing doesn't prevent us to work on the other thing. The most important thing for us here is always to keep in mind that first, we all need help. Second, we are not here to judge our brothers and sisters. And especially in time of despair, instead of helping, we will say it's the result of your own free will. And third, we will always assess the situation and do the best that we can. This is the name of the lesson, the best. She's not saying you have to do this or that. She's just saying you have to do the best. Of course, implying that the best that you can. As long as you can put your head on the pillow at night and say, I did the best. There is nothing to worry about. Consider the wisdom of the Lord, and without discouragement, do your part. Do what you can with the certainty that you are doing your best. And it's so amazing when Joanna de Angelis, she does that in terms of, how she's all involved in psychology, transpersonal psychology, and understanding human nature. Because we always have this tendency of saying, oh, but Zoraida can do a lot. I cannot do everything that Zoraida does. And she's saying, who asked you to do what Zoraida does? I'm just asking you to do what you can do, which is quite different. So here is not us comparing ourselves with each other and saying, oh, but he can help 100, I can only help half. Okay, you do your part, you help your half. Remember the widow's mite when they say, Jesus says, she just put the smallest coin that there was during that time. And the other man gave a lot of money. But her coin is more valuable than the other one because she gave her best. And he gave only what was not even necessary for him. That is the lesson for today.
Could I say something this time?
Yes, please.
Yes, yes. I'm listening to this beautiful lesson, the best. And for years, I have been trying to explain and kind of letting my daughter understand that what smoking does to you. And many in our family have gone through series of seriousness and even death. And so I've been on and on explaining indirectly, your health and what we should do to take care of our bodies and to normalize what she listened and do. Well, yesterday she landed in the emergency room because of her health. And this morning she calls and she tells me what the doctors are saying, that they did this, they did that, and blah blah blah. And at the end of our conversation, she says, "Oh, by the way, mom, you know what the doctor said? The doctor said that it's the smoking." And now I could have turned around and said, "Do you know how many years I have been trying to explain how dangerous this is?" But I didn't. I kept quiet. So I, I'm listening to this beautiful lesson you gave us today. Do your best. And that's all I could have done all these years trying to explain to her how serious this is. And without saying much, she set the whole situation in motion. She has to stop. And all I could say is just like you said, if you do your best and consider that you have to be indulgent to that person, because I smoked many, many centuries ago, many years ago, and I also stopped. So we have to get to this point that when it's time, God knows what He's doing. And just like she says, Joanna de Angelis, she is so beautiful. Do your best. That's all we could do. We can't change anybody. We could only give them our love and and advice and move on. But I thank you for this beautiful lesson. Do your
Mm.
best.
Yeah, the thing is, from the outside, it's always so easy for us to judge or to say, "Oh, it's so easy to do that or not to do that." But we don't know. For each one, is going to be different. It's going to, we don't know about their lives, and maybe they are dealing with other things, and they are much more difficult. And for the moment, they can do only what they can do, and and I mean, it's that I think this is what is very beautiful and important in terms of spiritism, because like I always say, there's nothing that is forbidden to you, but we always bring to everyone's attention that everything that has a consequence. But listen, if this is what keeping you sane and not insane, you see, for the moment, the best you can do is this. But you will keep in mind that with time, we all are going to be capable of going an extra step, like you always say, the baby steps, right? And it's not a matter of postponing, um, but a matter of you really analyze